student or there's something wrong with them, and that's not the truth. The truth is that what matters is how you go about your business. If you go about your business the right way, it might take some time, but the grades will sort themselves out. If you go about your business the wrong way, it doesn't matter how much time you have. You're not gonna get there. You're gonna fail. You're gonna mess it up, and you're gonna experience disappointment. So I was extremely happy with how the quizzes went. I thought they were great, and I think if you do the same thing, working towards your test next week, that we're in really good shape. Speaking of that test, I made it up. I'm gonna put it in to get photocopied. A couple of pre-tests for it. I think we're looking pretty good. Big news. Very big news. Ziva's in heat.
What?
Ziva is in heat.
What does that mean?
That's when a dog is able to get pregnant. So it means that we have to wait a few days. Generally speaking, a heat lasts about a month, a little less than a month. And you go 1 week where she can't get pregnant, and then a week where she could get pregnant, and then a week where she can't get pregnant. So we have to wait a few days before we do what we have to do, but it's looking very good. Yes,
Who's gonna be the papa?
his name is Bakaj.
What?
His name is Bakaj.
What kind of?
Macabre.
He's a Central Asian Shepherd.
Is he gonna be like a mixed breed or the same?
Oh, no. I paid a lot of money. No mixed breed here. He looks like Ziva or Gibbs, except he's almost jet black, with just a little bit of white on his belly. Little thin strip of white. It's very possible. My wife has very mixed feelings about it. She loves it on one hand, and she dreads the thought of 4 of them in the house on the other. So she gets a little bit out of sorts when someone comes to the door and all 4 of them decide that they don't want to let the person in the house. So, but we have a series of gates set up where we get them behind gates, and it's not a problem. And to be fair to my wife is 5'2". She doesn't have a whole lot of strength, so she gets frustrated when the dogs don't do right away what it is she said. But these dogs are protective, and they're going to take a second to listen before they do things. All right, so yesterday we talked about literal equations, and number 1 is an example of a literal. And I pronounced that carefully because I tend to pronounce something like that wrong. So, look, when it says to solve for y, you need to rearrange this equation so that it says y equals. This is actually easier than a regular equation. It just takes a little bit of getting used to. The reason it's easier is you can't make a number mistake. Emma thought she messed up her quiz, and the truth is she did every single step right. They were perfect. The way she entered it in the calculator caused her to get the final answer to be wrong, and I mentioned that I think it probably happened to some others. Now, that will never happen with one of these, and that's why these can be actually easier to do. The steps are identical. It says solve for y, so that means get y by itself. Get y by itself. So the first thing I have to do is subtract 3x. So I get 5h minus 3x equals 2y. Is the y by itself yet? No. It says 2y. It's supposed to say y equals. So now I divide by 2. I'm done. 5h minus 3x over 2. Completely done. Remember, I can't combine h's and x's. They're different sorts of things. They're like puppy dogs and kittens. You got to keep them separated, okay? 5h minus 3x over 2. All right. Consider the equations x minus 2 equals 6 minus x, and x minus 2 squared equals 6 minus x squared. Did squaring both sides of the equation affect the solution set? I don't know if you ever thought about this, but let's play with it and see what comes up. First off, if you solve this one, let me do it quickly in my head. Adding 2, adding x, 2x is 8, x is 4. Agree? If you solve this, you'll get 4. Anybody else solve it and get 4? Yeah, okay. Phoebe, I trust you can do that. This is not a hard question.
Well, yeah, leave it all in your head.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. But it's for the purposes of demonstration, because the question here isn't so much about what x equals as much as did squaring both sides affect it. Now, x minus 2 squared, I hope you remember, means x minus 2 times x minus 2. Right? Doesn't squaring something mean multiplying it by itself? You with me on that? Yasmin, am I keeping you awake here?
Yeah.
You're going to get me to yawn. In fact, I feel it coming on. Okay.
What is that?
Kids have often called me Chewbacca. So, I'm not a Star Wars guy, but many kids have called me that. All right, x minus 2 times x minus 2, I need to double distribute, right? We did that work recently. X squared minus 4x plus 4. That's when I cut to the chase. 6 minus x squared is going to be 36 minus 12x plus x squared. So now, since it says here that these are equal, let's set these guys equal to each other. X squared minus 4x plus 4, and 36 minus 12x plus x squared. Well, the first thing that strikes me is that here's an equation that has x squareds in it, and I'm not comfortable with that, not yet. Later in the year, we do billions of them. But at this point, not comfortable. So what's really cool is if I subtract x squared from both sides, I get rid of them. Now, Phoebe, I'm going to do fast forward again. Adding 4x, I'm going to add 12x to both sides. That's 8x. I'm going to subtract 4. I get 32. So 8x is equal to 32. Divide by 8, and I get x is 4. So did that change the answer at all? No. So it worked out to be 4. Worth considering, because at some point in the future, we are going to do tons of equations with squares in them. Okay? Next, number 3, if f of x is 5x to the 0 plus x to the negative 3, find f of 2. What I'm really looking to make sure you understand here is when you see 5x to the 0 and you go to evaluate it, do you know to do the x to the 0 first and then multiply by 5? That's the big thing I'm looking for. So, if I substitute in a 2, what's 2 to the 0? 1. Then I multiply by 5, what do I get? 5. Now, negative exponent, reciprocal, sir. So, if I have 2 to the negative 3, that would become 1 over 2 to the 3, which is 1 over 8. And then, for Francine there, 5 plus 1/8 is 5 and 1/8. Okay. All right, any questions about that? Yes?
Is it okay if it has a decimal?
Let's speak about decimals, Mr. Mahabal. I don't care how much you love decimals. I don't care if you go home and have posters of decimals in your rooms. I don't care. Stop with the decimals. The reason it's so important, everything is context, okay? If you have a problem, a math problem, and the whole problem is in fractions, how do you think they expect the answer to come out? In fractions. Now, if it was in decimals, I wouldn't want you to put it into a fraction. Now, sometimes they'll say at the end, express your answer as A, and then you do whatever they say. The problem is this. I have seen so many kids in converting to their decimals convert wrong. Now, I'm not saying you would, because you, being so in love with decimals, might be perfect at that. But I'm telling you now, if this entire class converted a problem to decimals, if it was a really easy one like 3.5, nobody would get it wrong. But if it was one that was like repeating, for example, a great example would be this one. Ready? 2 point, and then the calculator fills it out, and it's 7 repeating, and it will go 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, and the last one on your calculator will say 8 because it rounds off automatically, and they will put 2.778, and that's wrong. It's 7 repeating. So I see kids mess that up constantly. I see other kids who it doesn't say to round off, and they I'm going to round to nearest hundredth because I like to. All right? And they get it wrong constantly, so don't do it. Especially when all it takes to keep it as a fraction is math, enter, enter. All right. Now, the next work that we have to do. What we're talking about today is just deepening our understanding of equations. And an example would be the second one that we just did on the Do It. I just want to play with equations. I don't want to, there's no more skills you're going to learn. I'm not going to teach you any new tricks. But what I want you to do is think about these equations pretty well. So now, let's look at this one here. Why don't we have you answer A, B, and C. I'll give you a minute or two to get that done. And then I'll go through and put answers to that, and we'll discuss a little bit on the board. Go ahead. These are, whenever you see this font, speaking of fonts, Christina, whenever you see this font right here, this is the font given to us by the state. So these are questions that the state recommends they do. Whenever you see this question here, that's me.
That's him.
Okay? So, and I do want a Dolan font before I retire.
Wait, why is that a keyboard with that?
It's just perfect handwriting.
Oh, yeah, we already knew that.
It's perfect. There is not a flaw anywhere in her handwriting. I've only had a couple of kids over the years like that. Oh, you guys did see that the relearn packet is all up on the website? Right?
I'll be there all day.
I'll be at the library tonight, if you need me there.
Oh, man.
I think this is it. Yes. 5:30 to 7:30. The library is great for getting the relearn packet done. Just watch the videos first or bring a smartphone with you so that you can listen to it while you're at the library. Go ahead. You know what? If you look at the content in the whole thing, it matches the content of the other thing. And I actually talk about that on the videos. It's kind of out of order, so I want you to just do the whole packet. And then everything you need to know is going to be in there. All right?
The whole thing, even though that a certain section.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The questions that I got wrong aren't in there, so.
What question would that be?
The,
There was one question that wasn't in there, but we're doing it on a quiz 3 times before you have the makeup test.
it was the exponent one with the parentheses and number
Reciprocal.
8. Yeah,
Oh, the one with the flip?
yeah, and then there's 2.
So come in for extra help for that one. There was like one in there, and then there's another one that we're having on a series of quizzes that you'll be prepared for through the quizzes. But that's pretty much it. Everything else is definitely in there.
Like, for that one, didn't you have to like find reciprocal?
Yeah, a couple of times. Okay. Atención, por favor.
Okay,
Muchachos y muchachas.
same.
Okay. So now, let's take, ah!
Ah, scaring me.
Okay. Consider the equations x plus 1 equals 4 and x plus 1 squared equals 16. What do you, where are they connecting? What do they go, where are they going with this?
But if you times that, you get that.
Oh, that's deep.
And then
Whoa, I need to sit down and process that. Look, what it's saying is if these two equations are equal, are their squares equal?
possibly.
Now, possibly is a really important observation because don't you know with the square of a number that not only like is positive 5 squared, 25, but what else do you know? Negative 5 squared is what? Also 25. So what they're getting at here is, does it always hold true all the time? Or does this squaring, because of the possibility of negatives, affect things? All right, verify that x equals 3 is a solution to both. So 3 plus 1 equals 4, 4 equals 4, check. 3 plus 1 squared equals 16, 4 squared equals 16, yeah, that works, check. Find a second solution to the second equation. Now, I want you to do this one by analyzing it. I don't want you to actually solve it. You'll learn how to do that later in the year. But I think if you look at this, along the lines of what I just said, didn't I say 4 squared is 16, right? But what else squared is also 16? Come on, there's another number squared, negative 4. Absolutely. What is negative 4 times negative 4? 16. And doesn't squaring something mean multiplying it by itself? So, what number would I have to plug in for x for this entire package to equal negative 4? Alex? Negative 5. So negative 5 will also work as a solution to the second equation. That's why I wrote here, do this by substitution, just trying to figure out what it is. You're not ready to do that as a solving system. You will be in a couple of months. Based on your result, what effect does squaring both sides of the equation have on the solution set? Check this out, ready? When the exponent, the highest exponent in an equation is 1, there's one and only one solution. When it's 2, there could be, doesn't have to be, but there can be 2 solutions. And that's the big shift. Now, all we want to do is show you that that could be today. Later in the year, we spend 3 weeks doing equations like this, but not at this point in time. Okay, let's go forward a little bit. Consider the equation, x plus 4 equals 3x plus 2. Show that adding x plus 2 to both sides does not change the solution set, and then multiplying by x plus 2 can. Go ahead. Another minute or so. Yes. You know my hearing is so bad, I barely, I know your lips. I don't know what came out of them.
Negative 4 plus 2.
So add x plus 2 to both sides, so on the left you would get 2x plus 6.
Oh. Yes.
Let's rewrite those. And then rewrite the other side, plus x plus 2.
Oh yeah, that makes sense. Because it's just putting 2, 3. Wait. I just had it. I don't know.
You just did it in the equation. That's gonna show it.
Okay, check it out. Here, I'm adding x plus 2 to both sides. See that? Add x plus 2, add x plus 2. Let's just do, I'm gonna do this very quickly off the top of my head. I'm sure if you had time, you could do it. 2x plus 6 equals 4x plus 4. Subtracting 2x, I get 2x equals 2, x equals 1. Okay? So x equals 1 is an answer to this one. X equals 1 is an answer to this one. So if I add x plus 2 to both sides, it stays the same. Then it says, show multiplying both sides by x plus 2. In other words, this, and then this, also adds another solution of x minus 2. Well, the reason is this. What is anything times 0? 0. Isn't it true if I substitute in a negative 2, I get 0 here? And if I substitute in a negative 2, I get 0 there? So that is why, or a great example of a reason why, when you put another factor and you make things squared, because x times x would give me x squared here, and there would be an x squared here, when we get an exponent of 2, there is a second answer. So that's the big thing behind today. If we square things, we open up the possibility of a second answer. We will not do anything with that until much later in the year. But we want you to realize that that's the case now. So we can add to equations, subtract, multiply, divide, but when we start squaring things, we have issues. Yes?
Memory line packet.
Sure, give me a second.